He wrote in his diary, when first thrown wholly upon the diet of reindeer meat, by which he means caribou, it seems inadequate to properly nourish the system, and there is an apparent weakness and inability to perform severe, exertive, fatiguing journeys. But this soon passes away in the course of 2 to 3 weeks. What he's saying is you can't make a transition from a high-carb diet to a low-carb ketogenic diet overnight. You can't make that transition in a week. And yet most of the studies up until when I first came to this topic, most of the studies that have been done comparing low-carb and high-carb diets, particularly as it related to physical performance, were all less than 2 weeks duration. And some of them were even 1 week less reduction in duration of the diet. And they say, well, low-carb diets always cause people to be debilitated, so they've got to be bad, you can't do this. There was, again, this remarkable Arctic explorer, his name is Stefansson. First name is unpronounceable. My best rendition is Vilhelmur. He was of Icelandic origin, but born in Canada, grew up in the north central states of the United States, and then went to Harvard to study what they called in those days comparative religions, which was really anthropology. He was fascinated by the Inuit, and after completing his studies at Harvard, he went into the Arctic, and over a 12-year period of time, he lived among the Inuit. He learned to speak their language, he wore their clothes, he learned how to hunt the way they did. The only things that he had different was he carried matches, and he had paper and he wrote things down, and he had a clock and a sextant so he could navigate by the stars. He learned how to build their snow houses, and he became very adept at their lifestyle. In fact, he became kind of passionate about their lifestyle, and when he came back to civilization, well, what we call civilization, he wrote about it both in the lay literature and in professional articles. But that was the time when nutrition was a nascent field and we were just discovering all the 12 vitamins, right? That happened between 1914 and 1926. And right in this period of time in the late 19-teens and early 1920s, he's saying, I could live on a diet of meat and fat, I ate no vegetables for up to a year at a time, and I didn't get sick. And he was called a liar. I mean, he was vilified in both the popular press and the professional press, to the point that in order to salvage his reputation, he allowed himself to be locked up in a hospital for a year where he only ate meat and fat. And the goal of the people who ran the experiment, it was called the Stefansson experiment, the goal of the experiment was to prove that he would get sick, that he would develop scurvy within 4 months. Stefansson ate this diet for a year and showed no signs of scurvy. So to the credit of the scientists who ran the study, they published the data. And they kept very accurate records of what and how much Stefansson ate. And you can see he ate 115 grams of protein a day average, which is only about 15 up to maybe 20% of his daily protein requirement. So first myth that we can discard here, a low carbohydrate diet as eaten by Aboriginal people, and we have data from other cultures as well, is not a high protein diet. It's a very modest protein diet. The shocking number for most people who have been taught to fear fat is that close to 80% of his calories per day came from fat. Now, he wasn't eating seal and whale and caribou in New York City, because this research hospital was in New York City, but he was eating market meats, and he was allowed to choose of what he wanted, and he ate a lot of lamb. He ate most of his meat boiled. The Inuit either ate their meat frozen, and then when it thawed, they ate it raw, or it's kind of like meat sashimi, and otherwise they boiled their meat, and they not only ate the boiled meat, but they drank the broth.